What's up, everybody? It was the night before Christmas, and all Allie and Steve could think about is NFL free agents. What's going on, everybody? You guys know who I am here, Coach Steve. Some of y'all call me Stat Sheet Steve. Steve, whatever. Just don't call me late for dinner. You guys know the saying. My co-host tonight, Allie. Let everybody know what's going on.
Not too much, man. Doing pretty well. Thinking about those free agents as well.
So tonight's show, if you can't tell from what we're talking about here and from the survey that we kind of shared earlier in the week, is we're here to talk about the beginnings of the 2022 NFL free agency period. We do have a lot of things to kind of go over here tonight. We're going to try to keep this respectable for Christmas Eve, but at the same time, if some of y'all are wrapping up those last minute Christmas gifts and you need an hour and a half worth of content, we're here for it, guys. So we really do appreciate y'all tuning in. Allie, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So to begin with, Allie, earlier this week, you sent me a message on Twitter, and you were saying, hey, what do you think about these free agents? Like, who would you sign out of this group? And you created like a really an intriguing scenario where you were using some just basic things that, nothing that's too permanent or too in detail, but, general consensus of like how to kind of group these guys into categories of, you got $10 to spend, and here's $3, here's $2, here's $1. You can sign up to 5 players on this $10. Right. How are you signing? To begin with, what do you think about the 14 or 15 players that are floating out there for the Eagles? Like, what is your what do you think their importance are to the team?
Sure. So I just want to give people some perspective. I don't know how many people caught your video earlier. I don't know who knows what about what. So I pulled the information off of Over the Cap, and I got the 15 free agents, and I grabbed those numbers based on their actual salaries they have right now, relatively speaking. So you got more expensive players like Anthony Harris, and then you have people all the way down to the bottom, Nate Herbig. And so with this game, basically, you got $3, $2, $1, based on how much they're getting paid. And I'm straight up the board. I don't know, Coach Steve, if you want to refresh, everybody on what your vote is. I guess I'll go first. I'm straight $2 here. So basically the list is, so Anthony Harris, Derek Barnett, Ryan Kerrigan, Steven Nelson, and Rodney McLeod are all $3. I don't like any of them. I'm happy to get into that a little later. Then Jordan Howard, Hassan Ridgeway, Boston Scott, Alex Singleton, and Greg Ward Jr., those are my 5. I'll get into that in a little bit. And then at the bottom of the list, this list may have changed. I don't know if you have that. We can go over that in more detail later. Greg Ward snuck down at the bottom-ish of the list. I'm not sure why. Jason Kroom, Jannard Avery, Andre Chachere, Nate Herbig, and maybe somebody else. So basically, in general, we can get real deep depending on what people want to do. I don't want to spend $3 on someone that's limited. And as we know from last week, Anthony Harris is limited. Doesn't have that catch-up, athleticism, great instincts, decently physical, but he's limited. I don't want to spend $3 on that. Derek Barnett is okay. He's making a bunch of money on his 5th-year option right now. He's okay. I don't want to spend $3 on okay. Ryan Kerrigan, some flashes here and there, but some people say that he's done. He was done last year. Don't want to spend $3 on that. And then Steven Nelson, I think he was the one was that the one you said you wanted to keep, the $3 one?
I think that was the one I said I would potentially consider keeping.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, it's not like you aren't open to replacing him, but he's a lot of these defenders, especially defensive backs, they're playing within what I call an acceptable window, right? They're okay. They're getting the job done, especially in the context of this very vanilla conservative scheme that protects them in many ways that I think JG is very comfortable with. I mean, to me, what I've seen, Steven Nelson and Rodney McLeod are also limited athletically. And I don't want to spend $3 on them, right? I mean, to me, Anthony Harris and Rodney McLeod are both really box safeties. If they were $2 safeties, and I saw some great safeties in the draft, real post safeties, I might consider that. But that's that. What are your thoughts on that so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on how you see things in terms of who the Eagles should re-sign. Let me see if I can't pull this up to just give everybody. Let me see. No, that's not it. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull it up and just see if we can't. Yeah, here we go. It's right here. So $3 players, real quick, just so everybody can kind of see what we're saying here. Hopefully, it's sharing on the screen right now, guys. But the $3 players, this is my video I put out a couple days ago. So we said Anthony Harris, Derek Barnett, Ryan Kerrigan, Steven Nelson, or Rodney McLeod. Let me remind everybody, the scenario here is you only have $10 to spend. You can sign up to 5 players, and you got categories of $3, $2, and $1. I said Anthony Harris, like I could see the Eagles making that move of an Anthony Harris or a Rodney McLeod just because the draft isn't completely deep. And those guys at least are going to have some familiarity in your system, and you're going to know what you expect of them. But they're limited players. I'm probably a little bit more in favor of if Rodney McLeod can come back, even though he's getting up there in age. If he can come back another year removed from a knee injury, maybe so. I think some of it might be age and some of it might be injury that's limiting Rodney McLeod a little bit this year. But you're getting dangerously close to when guys start to tail off, especially skill position players when it comes to Rodney McLeod.
Go ahead. I don't know why I'm echoing. I apologize for that. Is this better? This should be better. Anyway, so I want to help everybody do in the room what real player personnel people do. They took a look at 3 things at the same time. Their retiring contracts, existing free agents, and who's in the draft. So to support your point, I agree with you. If I was going to spend $3 on somebody, it would be on a safety, because when we look at the draft in a couple weeks, a couple months, whenever that happens to be, there aren't a lot of quality safeties, or there are a lot of good corners, but not a lot of quality safeties. So while I prefer my $2 players because I see the value there in terms of value, looking at the big picture, looking at the other free agents, and looking at the draft in particular, there aren't a lot of high-quality safeties. So I certainly understand and appreciate your desire, especially to keep McLeod over Harris. Although Harris isn't bad either. They're both acceptable. Hopefully McLeod's going to have some more athleticism here to get to your point.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, these are not the most optimal conditions because I do think that this defense requires playmakers at safety and playmakers at linebacker. And I think it's very argumentative if we have those guys. And I'm going to make a couple arguments here, Jalen. I'm going to get to the argument you just put up there. Give me 1 second, okay? So the guy I went with was Steven Nelson. And the reason being is it's not that I think Steven Nelson is a necessity, but if I'm going to go into the draft and find a young guy, then I might want a veteran presence on the team out there with that young guy, knowing that at some point the young guy is probably going to surpass him or plant him, if you will, as the entrenched player later into the season. And then he's going to be more of that third corner kind of territory. Much like we saw when they drafted Sheldon Brown and Lito Shepherd in the early 2000s. Back when we still had Troy Vincent and can't remember who was opposite of Troy Vincent, but it might have been Bobby Taylor. I can't remember who it was. But we had a decent secondary back then with Troy Vincent and those guys. So, we even had Al Harris, I think, 1 year on that team. So, we had a really, really good secondary for a while. The reason I say this, though, Allie, about the safety position, and just for everybody to keep your eye on, I'm not making any declarations of what might happen, but I don't know that the safety draft is as deep as people think. I think there's a couple of really top-end players from it, and then it really, I think you're getting down into some what might be lesser talent in most other draft classes. So
agreed. Yeah, there are probably 2 that are. We're not going to get into specifics because this isn't a draft podcast or a draft live stream, but there are 2 guys I think that are first round worthy, and everyone else is significantly more suspect at the safety position.
Agreed. So I said Steven Nelson. I want to get to one comment that's in here, and everybody chime in the comments. Chime in. Don't hesitate to chime in the comment section. This is your show, guys. This is the show you guys picked. You guys chime in. Let us know where you're at on some of this stuff. I'm going to get to a couple of the questions. So Jalen says Barnett on a 2 for 12 deal because we don't have bodies worth targeting at defensive end. Howard, because I love 2. Yeah, I get what you're saying. You need 2 backs, basically. And Herbig, because he is a solid backup. I like the players you named, but Barnett worries me because he's a young pass rusher, and although he hasn't been that productive, he certainly doesn't deserve a big contract. I'm concerned. I'm concerned that Barnett could still get paid by somebody. If you're at 2 for 12 for Barnett, sure. It's a headache. The young man still makes mistakes out on the field that cost us, possessions and drives, and at times it cost us points, to be quite honest, because of just the foolishness of how he plays the game at times. He just plays with a reckless abandon, and sometimes it borders on being kind of dirty, to be quite honest. But Jalen, you seem to think that, you know, he's not really a dirty player. He walks a very fine line, and he just, you know, he plays with a bit of a reckless abandon that gets him in trouble at times. I tend to think that he's really towing that line of being a dirty player, in my opinion. With that said, I didn't see anything egregious. I don't see egregious late hits or anything like that. Just stupid things. I don't know, man. I get what you're saying, Jalen, which is we don't know what we have at pass rusher either, and we don't know what we're going to get out of the draft at pass rusher. And this is so more so about ensuring your roster. I get it. It's not the direction I went personally, though, to be quite honest. I want to get into the $2 range because you said this is where you would spend the majority of your money, Allie. Is at the $2 range, right?
Oh, me? Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I'd spend all of it there, frankly.
So the $2 range, this is who we have here. Hassan Ridgeway, Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, Greg Ward Jr., or Alex Singleton, depending on how you're shaping the discussion, right, everybody?
Right.
So your $2 players here. Hassan Ridgeway, nose tackle, good third defensive tackle rotation. Jalen, you seem to think that we can just kind of upgrade there. I get a little skeptical of that just because we have long-term needs in terms of star players, and we have depth issues at the same time there. The guy that I was really high on, and this is one of the ones I missed on, I thought Marlon Tuipulotu was going to be a very, very good signing in the 6th round, or these very good draft pick, I should say, in the 6th round for the Philadelphia Eagles, and that did not pan out at all. I mean, maybe he'll turn into that, but it's not right now. That's for sure. So I get a little worried about the depth there. I probably would absolutely bring back Hassan Ridgeway. You know, I said Steven Nelson, Hassan Ridgeway, and Jordan Howard, and Alex Singleton. That was the 4 of my 5. My 5th one's going to be in the dollar range, and that was Nate Herbig. I opted not to go with Boston Scott because I feel like we're almost in a Boston Scott or Jordan Howard situation for next year. I don't know you bring both guys back. I'm not saying, you know, to rule it completely out and it's impossible to do. It's absolutely possible. But, you know, I feel like that's an area where you can maybe get younger later in the draft. Sure. And bring somebody in. You know what I mean? Especially when you're still kind of dealing with the situation with Miles Sanders. You're still trying to get Kenneth Gainwell kind of, you know, more and more involved in the offense. Then I think you bring back either a Jordan Howard or Boston Scott. Maybe not both guys, but, you know, I'm not predicting what they'll do. I mean, who knows? At the end of the day, I have a clue. But you said you'd spend all your money here, right? So you said you'd spend all $2 for the $2 range.
I want to be very clear. I'm glad that we both agree on Jordan Howard. If we didn't, I'd probably have to hang up right now. I mean, I say that facetiously, but I mean, the guy's a beast. He's a physical mauler. He drives the run game. I mean, he's great. He is great at what he does, and he should do more of it. The thing I like about Boston Scott, he doesn't do anything at an elite level, but he does everything well, right? He is elusive, and he's physical for his size. He catches passes out of the backfield. He's good in special teams. And in terms of a roster, you want people that are multidimensional. And I like that about him. And especially with the $3 players, yes, there's going to be possibly an issue with safety maybe next week or whatever we can take a look at. I'm pretty sure Derwin James is not on that list, but, you know, Sewells is out there. Sewells is gettable in free agency. Maybe we can solve it that way because the draft is light at safety. But I didn't like any of the $3 players well enough to take them over a $2 player and then have to take someone at the $1 level. And I don't really like those players at all, which we'll get to. But, yeah, in terms of Boston, so I understand offensive line, defensive line, you need a ton of depth. You want a ton of depth. And whether that's Herbig or somebody else, depth is great. I guess it's possible to have too many running backs. I guess that's an embarrassment of riches. But especially if this team is going to build its identity more and more even next season around what is basically a triple option game with some passing thrown in, then you want a nice stable of backs. And that's my opinion. That's my thing. I understand why other people think differently. All I'm saying is he's really versatile. He does a lot of stuff well. And there's no one else on the list. I mean, like you said, we can draft Walker from Michigan State, right? I like Walker, right? We can do that stuff, but I like him enough to not get rid of him just to replace him with someone else from the team, some other free agent we haven't talked about yet, or someone in the draft. I mean, I'll tell you what, we'll we'll get to the draft, we'll get to the other free agents, and maybe you can change my mind. But
So Messiah Armstrong chimed in and said the only person I would resign for $3 is Rodney McLeod. The rest have been proved as ineffective for the team, except Steven Nelson, but he's been tailing off. Honestly, I would argue that Steven Nelson's always been what he's been. Messiah, if you've been following me for a while, and I think you have, you've definitely been commenting and being a part of the community for a while now. I can remember you for quite some time now. You remember I was very skeptical of Steven Nelson coming in. Not that I didn't, I knew he would be the second best corner the minute he touched the field, but I thought he was widely overrated by people, and I wasn't a fan of that. Just I thought some people were being a little unrealistic to what his actual, his skill set is, and that concerned me. $1 players. I just want to go over the $1 player list, guys. It's right here in front of you on the screen. Jason Kroom, Jannard Avery, Andre Chachere. If I'm saying that right, guys, let me know. Nate Herbig, and then Jason Huntley. I chose Nate Herbig out of this list. So my five simply put were Steven Nelson, because I still think, you could use a veteran corner while you bring these young guys up. But, he needs to be tailing off and the other guys need to be getting more playing time. It needs to be an increment thing here. So he would have to understand the role, and he may not accept it, obviously. Then I said on the $2 range, I would take, Jordan Howard, Alex Singleton, and there was one more player I said I'd take at $2. I can't remember who it was, but let me go back to the $2 range, guys. Hassan Ridgeway. So I said Steven Nelson, Hassan Ridgeway, Jordan Howard, Alex Singleton, and then the $1 range, I said that I would take Nate Herbig. Those were my five. The reason I looked at it is in terms of like where you need depth, and you should always try to shore up your roster as much as possible when you go into the draft, as much as potentially can be done. So that way you're drafting for best player available and not necessarily at desperate need. Is the way I like to kind of approach this type of situation. I will say that there can be arguments for Jannard Avery if you don't take an Alex Singleton. I just think that Jannard's more of a Sam. Alex is more of your will that can play. He can play all three alignments as a linebacker, but more of a will into the Mike role and coverage situations. I don't know that, I think this Eagles team wants to upgrade the Sam linebacker position. I think it desperately wants somebody at the Sam because they got Davion Taylor at the will. They got a limited guy in terms of coverage in TJ Edwards. He's not a man-to-man guy, but he's way better in zone coverage than people understand and realize, and he's a heck of a run support guy. So I think TJ Edwards is more than respectable as a 60 to 65% of your snaps guy. I think he's more than a 50% of your snaps type of player. With that said, there'll be certain situations and certain matchups where you don't want him lined up in man cover. It's a big disadvantage. But, look, that young man has experience playing safety, and I think that one unlooked about him, that TJ Edwards came in as a safety into college, I believe, and then he converted into linebacker and became a linebacker in the big, which, that's a big difference. That's a different style of football. That's very much the old school two-back sets, get heavy, get physical type, where you got the, your opposite of things, your opposite big, your Big 12 with, your schools like TCU and Oklahoma and those groupings. Those guys are a little bit more into the spread offense concepts and things like that. So that's kind of how I filled out my roster, Allie.
Yep.
How about you?
So the only disagreement, and it's not even a disagreement, clarification I have with you about your roster is Herbig, and that's only for this reason. He's not versatile. He can play left guard. He can play right guard. I don't want him ever playing center. And, I know it's only $1, but I would think in the draft, in free agency, there would be someone that could replace him that would be better, that wouldn't be substantially more expensive than he would be. And that would be more versatile, that could play center. Because I love Kelsey. Dude's going to retire an Eagle, and he's one of my favorite players. He can't play forever. Sayumalo could play center maybe. Dickerson was a center. But I would feel much more comfortable bringing someone in the draft and free agency that has been a proven center that could be added to the roster. That's my only issue with Herbig. He's not as versatile as I'd like him to be. Obviously, you can learn to play center, but that happens in the offseason. And if you can get better and it's not going to be that much more expensive, I think you should.
Yeah. So I want to attack a couple questions because I think there's a couple of really good ones here. So Messiah said, I would definitely sign Greg Ward and Jordan Howard, maybe a Ridgeway, but Milton Williams will be ready to take a spot next year. I avoided Greg Ward Jr. for one reason, Messiah, and I think he's a better football player than people give him credit for. But in saying that, to be honest, Messiah, my concern with him is that I'm looking at this roster and I don't see a fit for him any longer in Philadelphia because we need a veteran receiver that can get separation and get open here. And I just don't think Greg Ward Jr. is that guy, although I think he's been underutilized this season. And he should have gotten a little bit more snaps, especially when a few weeks ago when it was quite obvious our guys could not beat man coverage and we're struggling with that. He should have gotten inserted into the lineup much quicker, in my opinion. But in the long-term perspective, I'd rather get a veteran that I know can play. So, that situation, I would probably let Greg Ward Jr. walk on that, in that, kind of aspect of things. Jordan Howard, absolutely, I'd bring him back if I could. He's a contact bounce back, something we need for the offense. I don't have a problem with signing him and then moving on if you get a guy in the draft or you know what I'm saying? If someone else comes in and beats him out, then you move on for the role. I don't think it's a big deal, but I would bring him back and give him the opportunity to compete for it. Hassan Ridgeway and Milton Williams are drastically different players on the interior. Milton Williams is not a nose. You could use him in a the way I suggested he be used is like if you use him in a zero shade tilt kind of role where he's the nose, where he's just basically beating the center off the snap. That's one thing. But a down in, down out nose tackle will never be Milton Williams' role. He's just not strong enough for that, and it would take a lot of years to get to that level of strength. That's not what he is. He's a really good pass rushman. I think he's better suited to move around the line, the alignments between the 3-tech, 2-eye, maybe as a tilted nose on a zero shade. If you have that kind of role where you're going to bring that, a 5 technique, I would never use him as a true nose though. So like Ridgeway's the only guy outside of like the Marlon Tuipulotu. Marlon Tuipulotu is kind of a natural nose, and then I would argue that Gravedigger he's one as well. Coming over from Pittsburgh system, Javon Hargraves is he can play 2-gap, he can play nose, he's got that ability. Fletch can do it on occasion, but I don't know how much longer Fletch is going to be here. So, yeah, hard to say. What are your thoughts?
So I guess I'm trying to. I was listening, but I'm trying to remember. Oh, we were talking about Greg Ward. So on the one hand, with Scott, it's like, okay, do we have too many running backs? And with Greg Ward, the question is, do we have too many receivers? Yes, we absolutely need to add a real true boundary X for sure, guaranteed, maybe more. So super quick kind of tangent. I may have shared this with you. So I'm hearing all these, Jalen Hurts comps and watching all this Jalen Hurts tape. We can talk about him later in the week or whatever. And one of the comps that came to me as I was looking at his touchdowns numbers was Cam Newton. I want to be very clear about this. I think Hurts is a better leader. I think Hurts is almost on the same level as an athlete. I think they both have issues throwing the football consistently for various reasons we can get into later. But here's what happened real quick. The Panthers were like, yeah, Cam Newton, he's athletic, but he's not that accurate. So we're going to sign a bunch of extra receivers so that he can, throw to really large forgiving wingspans, and we can make it to the Super Bowl and lose to Denver, if I remember correctly, in 2015, I think. So I think, okay, you definitely want extra receivers, maybe more than one. I think he has value. I definitely think he should be explored more in the next, few games, including outside the red zone. That dude has been open. I've watched so much Eagles film. That dude is open all the freaking time. And a lot of it, honestly, is Jalen Hurts' fault. I'm not bagging on the guy. He's a great dude. He's gotten a lot better. And he could be truly great as a quarterback. He just needs to fix a few things. And he's well in that process of doing that. He's still in year 2. So I definitely want to give him another year. But I don't want to punish receivers that are open repeatedly because for whatever reason he's not throwing the ball. That's my concern, I guess.
So I want to get to Jalen's comment here, guys. I'm going to get down to some of your comments. Just give me 1 second, okay? I apologize, guys. Alex Singleton, Hassan Ridgeway, Greg Ward are all journeymen. The fact that they will be here going on 3 years is a problem because that tells me the talent level in the room. I agree with partially what you're saying, Jalen. But at the same time, I'll say this. These guys, my argument would be they give you the flexibility to not have to reach for guys. You know, you have something that's respectable, but not where you want to be ultimately, but you don't have to go crazy and reach for guys or overpay for guys. These guys can get the job done. I'm all for Alex Singleton as a fourth linebacker. I'm all for him even being a third in case of injury. Obviously, you don't want him to be the guy you're depending on as like your guy in the room. Like that's a problem, no doubt about it. Hassan Ridgeway, I don't think I think he's a rotational guy. He's just a rotational piece. Like I think there's nothing wrong with signing back Hassan Ridgeway. Like that's a guy you're bringing in as a third or a fourth defensive tackle. I mean, if you say that you would rather slide him down and him really just be a sparing nose we use on certain run stop situations, and that he's got a very, very limited role, and you got him as a fourth guy, and you know you're getting a little bit more from another guy, I totally understand that. But I think he could be your third or your fourth defensive tackle and be part of a very good defensive tackle rotation, in my opinion. But he's not a guy. I mean, I wouldn't want him starting. You know, that's not ideal. He's done it before for Philly, but you know that wouldn't be ideal. Greg Ward Jr. is a respectable ball player. He's just not, you know, he's limited. You know, his game's limited. He doesn't have the vertical element. Although if you get him inside the red zone and he's not like running that stupid out route, that speed out that they like to do, he seems to do okay. What are your thoughts on these three guys, Allie?
So just going over. So Singleton, yeah, you know, I like Singleton. He's a hard worker. He's humble. He is a piece on a board, right? He's not like a queen in the end game. He's not going to win a game for you all by himself, but he's a role player. He does his role very well. I think he has a lot of tackles. I am definitely comfortable with him being a third linebacker for sure. I like Alex Singleton. I'd like to see him on the roster next year, at least, you know, and can't give him a shot. I would agree with you as well. Williams is more of a 3 or a 5. He's definitely more of a pass rusher. Ridgeway is a rotational piece at more of an interior kind of nose tackle. And then the third one was Greg Ward? Yeah, I mean, give the dude a chance. I mean, seriously, maybe Monday or Tuesday, we can do some film, and I can show you all the times that Greg Ward is wide the bleep open. I understand he doesn't have elite vertical speed. You have people that do, but he is open a lot. I've seen him on the film, and he was throwing the ball and getting the shot. And if for some reason he has a lot of drops issues, or he can't make it off the line of scrimmage because he can't beat man press, which I don't believe to be consistently true, then, you know, maybe he's not fit. But I want to give him a shot.
My guy Crypto coming in. Can I get 2 Howards? Look, man, I don't know if I'd want 2 Howards, but I get the, you know, I love the style of player, but, you know, you got to have some versatility. But, yeah, 2 one-gap runners. I think that's what this team wants, to be honest with you. They want these one-gap, kind of one-cut type backs, these contact balance type. Although, to be honest with you, Miles Sanders isn't a contact balance back, but he's developed into what I would call a one-cut back over time. I just think that he's got a lot to learn about. At times he misses the hole. He doesn't make the right read for the hole. So he's got a little bit to still go there, but he's still the most explosive player, I think, in that backfield.
I'll add this one question. You already kind of have 2 Howards, or you have a Howard and a half. Boston Scott is very similar to Howard. He's just not as physical. He's not as bruising, but he plays a very similar style of game.
Yeah, I would say Howard's the better pass pro back. Boston Scott's the better receiving option. They both could play a third down role, but Kenneth Gainwell's probably that guy in terms of your third down. Gainwell's got to get better in pass pro, though. That's Gainwell's Achilles heel right now from the backfield. He's not good at pass pro. Mike Smith came in with I'm sorry, Messiah. I just want to get to something you said here about Chachere. I agree that Chachere is a good player, and I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't bring him back for special teams purposes. I just wonder if he gets lost in the shuffle of like 99 cornerbacks on the roster. That's my only fear. Mike Smith said, what do you think the Eagles do with them first round picks if they keep Hurts? So I want to go over something here, guys, while we're on this topic. So I'm going to take you guys over to Spot Track, and I want to look over the salary cap table, and I want to relay some information to everybody, okay? Because I think it's important to show you this as we're talking about it, so that way we don't lose track of what's being said. It's all on the up and up, right? There's nobody fudging numbers. It's right before your eyes to see, guys. So we're going to go to, I don't want positional payrolls. I'm sorry, guys. There's a lot of tabs up here. Go ahead and share my screen. All right. So I want to start off with a couple of things. 2022 projected draft. Right now, the only that they can value is the first round, because I think no one really knows where some of these picks are going to fall into the later round. So they haven't even put those estimations up. But I want everyone to see where we're already at with the first round pick. So the last updated this, we had the 11th, 12th, and 23rd pick. I highly doubt that's where we're going to end, but that's where these are being valued, right? The base salary on the 11th pick is $705,000. The base salary on the 12th pick is $705,000. The base pick on the 23rd selection is $705,000. Signing bonus, 3.14986 for the 11th overall pick, 2.771666 for the 12th pick, and $2,002,253 for the 23rd pick. Obviously, where things differ is in the signing bonus, and all this is a projection, although most of the times it's very close. When you take those figures and you add them all up, those three picks are going to cost us $10,029,905. Allie, I just said the figures. I got to ask you a question right from the jump here. Are the Eagles taking 3 first-round picks?
So my honest answer, it depends. So I have two quick answers. Probably, and okay, sorry. It depends. It depends is the main answer. So probably is another answer. So like I said, so a lot of this is about Hurts. So can we agree on that? A lot of this $10 million calculation for first round picks, especially with this office. So like I said, we'll talk about Hurts. We could do it a little bit today, but especially with some kind of film study, Monday, next week, Tuesday, whatever, sometime later on when we actually have it. Hurts he's a great guy. He's made a ton of improvements, a ton. He's gotten a lot better, but there's still massive holes in his game. And if he doesn't make miraculous improvements in those areas over the next few games, which is unlikely, I still believe the office is going to take a really hard look at the free agents, at the draft class, and probably what's going to happen is they're going to trade one of them, at least one of them, maybe just one of them into next year. That's probably what's going to happen.
Sure. I think there's some complexity to it just because I'm not too sure what the split is between the front office and the coaching staff. The coaching staff seems to love Jalen Hurts. Nick Sirianni seems to have a real connection and a real relationship with Jalen Hurts. I would say that, we're hearing so much about, Brian Johnson clearly has, a personal relationship with the young man. In addition to that, we know that Jeff Stoutland likes this young man, and they've been meeting, which was a pretty big declaration that, Jalen Hurts and Jeff Stoutland meet together to discuss the running game. So the coaching staff they love this young man. I'm not too sure the front office is as in love. And that's really what it comes down to. And it's not my personal opinion, guys. I'm just reading the tea leaves as they fall. I think the young man, if the decision was mine, I wouldn't make the move. I would stick him for at least one more year because I'm not in love yet with any of these prospects in this draft class. And I think that Jalen Hurts gives you just as much as any of these guys are going to give you. Now, look, if you can get a guy like an Aaron Rodgers, if you can get a guy like Deshaun Watson somehow clears these 1,000,001 legal hurdles out before him, which I just don't think is going to happen anytime soon. If, Russell Wilson changes his mind and says that Philadelphia is a bigger destination, I certainly understand the organization's standpoint on that. I don't think those three guys are coming here, though. I don't think they want to come to Philadelphia. So then you're left with like a Derek Carr. Well, the problem I have with the Derek Carr is I think Derek Carr is a really good football player, and if you're going to have a reclamation project, he's the guy. I don't want anything to do with Jimmy Garoppolo. I'll say this, if I'm Vegas and I want an Aaron Rodgers, I'm probably going to use a Derek Carr as the trade bait, right? So, I don't think he's necessarily. I think Denver's going to be in on some of these guys. You know what I mean? So I feel like Jalen Hurts might be the answer by default, and by play. I don't want to take away from his play recently. He's been up and down. He's had up and down moments. I don't want to overhype performance against Washington that was depleted. But you play the opponent that's before you, and he played pretty well. You know, I mean, I don't know how else to say it other than you play the opponents before you, and he played a very good game. I don't think that they're going to spend these first round picks on the quarterback, but I don't work for the front office, so I really don't know. You know what I mean? Like I could completely be wrong. Do you think that they might package picks to get somebody? Do you honestly think Kenny Pickett's going to climb into the top 12?
So I'm going to answer both of those questions. What I was referring to earlier was my belief that they're going to try to exchange at least probably just one of these 3 first-round picks for a first-round pick next year in hopes that next year's quarterback class is a lot better. So that Hurts gets another season, and they're like, okay, is he good enough? Is he good enough to be the guy to be a franchise quarterback, to have all the tools to make us a really deadly offense? Because right now they're not. Right now it's still a limited offense. As much as I love it, as much as we'll go over it again at some point, it's still kind of limited. There's meat on the bone. There's a feast. There's a medieval feast of meat on the bone. There's so many opportunities for bigger plays where receivers are wide open, and that's been the case all year. And he's gotten a lot better, but there's still a lot of meat on that bone. And so my belief is that Hurts is going to get another year, probably, and they're going to push one of those picks. They're going to trade a pick this year for a pick next year. Take a look at the quarterback market next year and like, okay, so first there are 5 things you need to do. Right now you've done 2 of them. How are you in those other 3? Can we trust you to really give you a traditional NFL offense with some wrinkles, right? With some of that read option stuff, the triple option stuff that I love so much, as a way to complicate the game plan even further in a good way? Can we do that? Can we trust you with all the NFL tools and an NFL roster with your arm and your judgment and your vision and all your other stuff? Can we do that? If they can't, they're going to take a real hard look at the draft. They're going to take another look at free agency. If they can, then there is, as impatient as Philly is, and as weird as the office can be, the dude's got a shot at a career here. I mean, the coaches love him. He's a great guy. He's improved so much. And the innate tools that he has, most of them are so good. I mean, he's really good at what he's really good at. The issue is there's a lot of meat on the bone still. There's way more room for growth, which is exciting, but it's frustrating at the same time. Let me answer your baby hands Kenny Pickett question. I'm going to call him that all the time. I just like picking on him. It's nothing personal, Mr. Pickett, nothing personal at all. All right, so let's do this a little bit and cut me off if I'm running it straight too much. So to me, quarterbacks really have 5 traits: leadership, athleticism, platform and release, vision, and it's a word that begins with an A, I'm sorry. Being able to see stuff in advance. You know, it is a commonly word used in football when talking about quarterback play. Anticipation, right? Thirdly, anticipation. Yeah. And then having a steady foundation in the pocket. So I'm going to talk about Jalen Hurts a little bit, and then maybe today, maybe Monday, Tuesday, maybe next week, we'll study some quarterbacks. First of all, you were I don't know if you played quarterback. You were a QB coach.
Yeah, I played in high school, and I was a QB coach. Most of what I know comes from coaching. Believe me, I was not a great player, guys. Like it wasn't like, I learned a lot of this from coaching at camps.
Cool, good deal. So would you agree with my list, generally speaking, first?
Yes, I think it's a pretty good list. I mean, okay, I think most other things that you could bring would really be a segue of what you're saying.
Sure. So Hurts has shrunk a few times this year, but he's a young quarterback. Shit happens. I'm willing to forgive that. I think he's a great leader. I think he is a great leader, especially for the team, especially the coaches from the locker room. That's a difficult thing to replace, and I would be very slow to replace that. He's a very good athlete. I don't know how hurt he is. I don't know how much they're trying to game plan him into protecting his ankles and such. But when he's fully healthy, he's 10, 20, 30 yards pretty easily. Even when the game plan against it, there are always things you can do. There's no perfect game plan. He's a pretty great athlete. So in terms of the other things, he has massive platform issues. He throws from his toes. He's not steady in the pocket. He used to roll out to the right a bunch and throw balls away. That was a huge pattern. He's not doing that anymore. But he's missing open receivers. I mean, in the WFT game, he did have people in his face, sort of, but he felt the need to get out of the way. That threw off the timing, and then his throws weren't very good because they were off platform. Now, Phillip Rivers, you're a Phillip Rivers fan. I know you're from NC State, right?
Huge Phillip Rivers fan.
He was an NC State guy, I think.
Yeah.
That dude was a master of throwing off platform. Phillip Rivers is a gift from God, not to be too religious on Christmas Eve, right? He has the talent, he has the gift. He's a natural thrower of the football. Jalen Hurts probably isn't. Certainly not to that degree. So ideally, you want your quarterback to be able to throw on platform in timing with a good release. And Hurts consistently hasn't done that. And obviously, he's still young, he'll grow, but he's not there yet. And then the biggest thing, I think, was that 4? Have I covered 4?
Yeah.
Pretty much. The 5th one, the thing that really troubles me from the film, including the Washington film that I just saw, so many receivers that were open, and he didn't see it, he wasn't feeling it. I mean, so many great opportunities, deep opportunities, short opportunities, receivers that were wide open against a bad opponent, a quote-unquote bad opponent, and he didn't pull the trigger. And that's the biggest thing that troubles me. I mean, everything is fixable, but I have him as like a 2-star, 3-star quarterback because of that.
Sure.
Kenny Pickett. So, all right. So, I don't want to speak to anyone's leadership because I don't know anybody, right? That would be a stupid, irresponsible thing for me to do. I would say the draft class in general, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, maybe not Carson Strong, but for the most part, modern NCAA quarterbacks are athletic. But very few, maybe Malik Willis is the exception, are anywhere near as athletic as Jalen Hurts is. So, in terms of athleticism, he's an upgrade over basically everybody. The issue is throwing from platform with a nice release, seeing the field, throwing with anticipation. That's the biggest thing that I'm worried about Hurts right now. Hopefully he'll fix it soon, but that's a big thing that needs to be fixed. And then really just being able to settle in the pocket, settle his feet, settle his knees, settle his eyes, and make the throw. And my belief, I could be wrong about this, I mean, obviously we need to take a look at some film and do some other stuff, is that there could be, I would move away from Hurts only if there were quarterbacks in the draft or quarterbacks in free agency that were so substantially better than Hurts in those 3 areas. I would take a look at that. I don't know. Kenny Pickett is marginally athletic. He's a good thrower of the football. I mean, it's the ACC. ACC defenses, no offense, I like the ACC. I really do. I went to Radford, right next to Virginia Tech, so I don't want to diss on the ACC, the almost competitive conference, too much. It's not like he's playing against NFL defenses. So everybody looks great in shorts. Everybody looks great in the preseason. 1 or 2 of these quarterbacks are going to look great in the draft because that happens every year. It might be Pickett, it might be Corral, it might be somebody else. I like Carson Strong a lot, actually, in terms of fundamentals and cool stuff like that, like arm strength and all that. I don't know if baby hands Kenny Pickett will get into the top 12 or the top 8 or the top 6, but I guarantee you someone will, because most NFL teams, especially teams that are drafting high up in the draft anyway, they don't have a strong defense. They don't have a strong running game. If you look in the playoffs, most of the teams that are in the playoffs traditionally have strong running games and have good defenses. That's how you win a lot of games. And so the teams that don't have a strong running game, the teams that don't have a strong defense need a great quarterback, and they win 2 or 3 games a year because they don't have a great quarterback, and they don't have a great running game, and they don't have a great defense. They don't have anything. And so it's kind of like a negative cycle, really. Philly 5000, I want to answer that question, and we'll do it a little bit later, maybe even later today. I love the question. I wanted to let you know and notice that. Teams reach for quarterbacks because they have to. And oftentimes, that's to their detriment. That's my short answer. That last sentence was my short answer. So, Philly 5000, your question, I like Willis's skill set. He seems like a cool dude. He seems like a good guy. He seems, again, I don't want to talk about leadership because I don't know the dude. But I like Willis's fundamentals. Pickett's got great numbers, right? He's got phenomenal numbers. We'd have to take a look at the film. We want to take a look at the film. Coral Pickett. Coach Steve, What do you think next week, maybe sometime this week? You want to take a look at those three and kind of compare them to Hurts at least a little bit? Is that a good use of our time?
Sure. I mean, I'll give you a quick answer, Philly 5000, about why I am not in love with them. And it's not to say that I think they're particularly bad prospects. It's that Corral's not playing in an NFL-ready system. He's 6'2", 205 pounds. He smells like Jimmy Garoppolo to me. Kenny Pickett has all the weird late comebacks and late career heroics, although he's played a lot of football. That smells like Zach Wilson, and you have to wonder if you're going to be in a similar situation where you got a guy who has talent, and you might be able to get him there, but if it wouldn't be a massive undertaking as a coaching staff. And he's got some physical limitations with the hand size. You got to worry about, like last week when there's mist on the field and the ball's a little slick and you got to get the ball out of your hands fast. Can he do it? You're going to have to wonder about that. And that was the big hoopla about the Carolina game with Sam Howell, that it was an adverse weather condition game, and he didn't struggle with the tiny, hands. And there's no way of saying it doesn't sound bad for him. Willis is coming out of Liberty. I got questions about that. I think Willis has a ton of potential. I mean, young man's got an arm. He's definitely a guy that intrigues me. But I don't know if I'm jumping ship on Jalen Hurts for him, personally. Because you're going to deal with everything you're dealing with Jalen Hurts, but I think it's going to be worse. Or not worse, but a larger – see, here's the thing. It's like I don't want to get into a quantitative of better, worse, you know what I mean? But you're going to have to grow him far more than you're going to have to grow, I think, Jalen Hurts personally. Now, that doesn't mean that his ceiling won't eventually get higher and he won't be the better player in 10 years. But I just – you know what I mean? Like, I just don't think – me personally, I'm not moved to jump out of my way to draft those three guys. I'm personally a Carson Strong guy, but I can tell you the problem I have with Carson Strong is he has the arm talent. His deep ball's still not right. I think he reads the field well, but he's playing at Nevada. So is a product of the competition and a product of, the environment he's in. Until I see 4 or 5 games from complete with coach's film that I can really dig in on these guys, I'm not going to say 100% either way here, guys. I'm just not. But I would stick with Hurts over these guys so far. I'm just being honest. My opinion on it doesn't mean my opinion matches the organization. But that's just my personal perspective on it. And it's not that I don't like those guys as prospects. I had no quarterback, and I was in that situation. I'd gamble on one of them. You know what I mean? I would take a gamble. But I don't think we're in that position. Let me take a look at a few, try to catch up on a couple of these questions, guys. Charles Queen coming in saying, can we get an edge rusher? So we're going to get into this. So we're going to continue these Saturday discussions. We're going to get into the market. Allie is doing a lot of work behind the scenes, guys, to prepare for these shows. And Allie has really put together like an extensive list that she's finalizing on the contract values. She has attributes we're going to be grading each of these players on. So it's probably going to be next week's show on Saturday where we get into the finer details of who we might target and what the value is, what we think their potential contract value will be, those kind of things. Today's more of an overbrushing of the reality of the situation and what's going on. And on that note, I want to get into the cap totals. So just give me your minute for times to crunch numbers because I think it's important to the discussion. We just talked about we need $10 million just for the first round. If we pick 3 players in the first round, we need $10 million. Here's the cap situation, okay? The league's cap is going to be $208,200,000. Our 2021 rollover, I like to call that deferment. I'm just playing fancy with words. The deferment is $18,246,000, $850. I'm sorry, $246,850. That comes out to a total 2022 cap of $220,446,850. If you would like to know how I'm coming up with these figures, go to Track and look at the cap tables. So all contracts on the Eagles right now for 2022 equals $190,403,413. The top 51 contracts would be the same. So 190, 403, 413. Reason is in the offseason, you only have to pay your top 51 contracts. That's all that gets counted for in your cap. Your dead money We have 22,004,364. Don't worry, I got you covered on who is counting against us on dead money. You already know that I was coming in with that kind of research. I'm ready for y'all. So here's who's still on the book of dead money, y'all. Malik Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz, Joe Flacco, Eric Wilson, Rick Lovato. I don't know why we have some of these guys on dead money. I'm not sure. John Hightower, Jacoby Stevens, Harry Kreider, Adrian Killen, Jaquan Bailey, Peyote Owasika, and then Jamon Osborne. Those are the guys that are counting against the dead money. Some of these guys are clearly practice squad members that we paid a signing bonus to when we signed them as undrafted rookie free agents that we take a dead money hit on. But they're not significant. The significant players are Malik Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz. Maybe Eric Wilson and Joe Flacco have a little bit of money that's going to count against us. But they're not, I think some of these guys like Lovato and Hightower, I think they're still under contract. So there must be something specific about their contracts that give us the dead money. I'm not sure why that's happening, but I'm reporting what Spotrac is saying. That's your 22 million. So when you take all your contracts, all your dead money, and you subtract it from your 2022 cap, basically what it comes out to is 226,446,850 minus 212,407,777. That leaves us with a cap total for 2022 of $14,039,073. 14 million. And we have a dead money pool already of 10. See the problem real quick? Now, I will say, some of the rule of 51 will have to account for what we're seeing in terms of the $10 million. So it won't be a true $10 million. Stick with me. I know this is really complicated stuff I'm getting into, but you have to pay 51 players. If you draft a guy, you don't double counting towards your 51. Does that make sense, everybody? Does everybody get what I'm saying? So you rule out your league minimum salary on the total amount of draft picks that you draft, and you subtract that from your pool. So it won't be a full 10 million, to be quite honest. So with that said, you look at these numbers. What do you think? What are your thoughts, chat? What are your thoughts, Allie?
So I want to make sure I heard all those numbers right. I was even taking some notes. So basically, it sounds like what you're saying is there is the ability to spend an additional $14 million, but then you subtract the $10 million in dead cap, etc. That's down to $4 million. So basically, if we're looking to replace people in terms of free agency outside of our existing renewable contracts, our margin for error is $4 million.
Yeah.
In terms of we can spend up to, I mean, obviously, Howie is a genius at figuring out ways to kick the can down the road, which is what we're experiencing right now. But it sounds like we've got $4 million. It sounds like we have $4 million to play with, basically, in terms of free agency. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, from what they're scheduling right now, I don't think that's going to be the reality. So there's a couple of things at play, chat. Number one, no one knows the real cap space except for the front office, to be truthful. These are all estimates. But number two, like I said, the rule of 51 still applies, and I don't see that being applied in these rookie salary tables that they're presenting. I don't see the rule of 51 being accounted for there. So there will get some money back. You got to take the league minimum, times it by the amount of draft picks, and you got to count that back towards your total. So I would say that probably, I'm not too sure all those dead money numbers they're reporting are 100% accurate, but I don't know. I don't have it in front of me to dispute it with them. I'm just reporting what they're saying. So I would guess that in reality, where they're saying 4 million, I'm going to say it's probably closer to 6 or 7 million. Once you count in, the rookie contracts we got to pay for the draft picks. With that said, the next natural question, Allie, is who's being paid on this team?
So it sounds like we've got at least 4 million in wiggle room. We could add 1 or 2 or 3, 4 people on the really low end, and there are contracts like that out there. But are you suggesting that we should or that we have to stop paying people on the roster that are making a decent amount of money? And
no, I'm gonna not at all, Allie. I'm gonna say the words that the chat's gonna kill me and cut me up for. You either got to cut somebody, like you're saying, you got to cut somebody, or you're going to have to defer money, which is a fancy way of saying kicking the can down the road.
Right.
On these contracts, which has got us into the dead money situation to begin with. And I don't see a way around it. We're going to have to, because there's too many holes on the roster. You want me to give you the 10 highest paid players?
Sure, I think that'd be good for the chat.
All right, here's your 10 highest paid players, everybody. Follow you guys. If you want to follow along, go to Spotrac, SPOTRAC, and then look at the salary cap tables for the Philadelphia Eagles. So Darius Slade, I'm going to go by their total cap hit, and then I'll go by what their base is, because the base is what you can move, guys. So total cap for Darius Slade is $22 million, is their highest paid player, a little over $22 million. Brandon Brooks is the second highest paid player on this roster next year at $19.4 million, a little over that. Javon Hargraves is $17.8 million. Lane Johnson is $15.763 million. Fletcher Cox, $14.946 million. Brandon Graham is $9.4 million. Isaac Seumalo is $7.6 million. Jason Kelsey is $5.9. Just say $6 million for Jason Kelsey, because it's like 5.999. So we're just going to say $6 million for Jason. Jake Elliott, our kicker, is $5 million. And Devontae Smith, our top 10 pick from last year, is $4.577 million. Those are your 10 highest paid players on the roster. I'll give you guys a little bit of insight. We have really no way of getting out of Lane Johnson and Fletcher Cox's contracts. As a matter of fact, Fletcher Cox only has a $1.2 million base salary. All his stuff is in bonus money that's probably already been paid to him. So it's money we owe the league. And he's counting 14.9. So the dead money would be pretty big on him this year in 2022. Same thing goes with Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson has a $7 million base salary, so a little bit more flexibility to gain cap space if we wanted to go that route. But his total number, so his base salary is $7 million. His cap figure is $15.763 million. The only guy I see where there's wiggle room is Brandon Brooks, who is a $13.4 million contract in base, 19.4 overall in terms of the cap hit. What are your thoughts on that?
So I agree with you. I mean, the biggest thing, whether it's deferments or cutting guys, the big concern is dead money hits, right? You were talking about Johnson and Cox earlier. I want to confirm: would there be dead money in Brandon Brooks' contract if he was to be let go this offseason?
Always dead money. There's always dead money, but it's not enough to over count what you would get in the cap savings.
Okay, so I like him a lot. He was an elite right guard. He's gotten hurt a lot. Certainly him and Lane Johnson were a nice combination 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago. I like Driscoll a lot. I'm not going to say he's as good, but I like him a lot. He's a very good right guard. And he was supposed to be, a tackle? But then they moved him in the guard, and like, wow, this dude's good. I think certainly if we have to cut people, I would be okay cutting him. I don't know how much of a locker room guy he is. I don't know how important he is for team cohesion. He was an elite right guard. He's hurt. He's maybe very good. But I don't know, given all that, if he's worth $13 million, which is what I believe that you said. So I am okay moving away from Brandon Brooks. If the numbers are right and we can get Driscoll in there or some other right guard that is a plus player, that's a good player, that's a solid player, that's more than just average, I'll be fine moving away from Brandon Brooks going into next year.
So here's the reality of Brandon Brooks' contract. He has no more guaranteed money so far unless there's some kind of a kick-in for a roster bonus. But right now, he has no guaranteed money at all. I don't see a roster bonus listed for 2022 as of right yet, but sometimes there's things you don't see. His cap number is 19. But his dead money is 15. So we'd end up saving about $3.7 million on just a straight-up cut. Straight-up cut or a straight-up trade for Brandon Brooks. We save about just under $4 million. Now, if you did a pre-June 1st designation here, so basically you're looking at dividing his salary up over a couple of years, I'm sorry, post June 1st, not pre June 1st. That's the exact opposite of what we want to do. You're getting $13.5 million this season back with a post June 1st or a post June 1st trade or cut's going to get you $13.5 million back against your cap. But you're delaying that hit to the following year because basically you only have to eat the dead money and the contract money in the current year, but then the rest of the money in the contract comes due the following. So,
right. I guess one of the bigger macro questions, which I like to ask, is that Jalen, I'm thinking the exact same thing. Thank you for the super chat. How good is this team? I like it. I think it's a good, solid team. I'm nervous to let a lot of people go, but I don't know. It's a new coaching staff. It's year one of the program. Do we strip everything down and start from scratch and really, kind of fix the budget, quote unquote? I think the team has the potential to be in the playoffs consistently. I think they have the potential to win a few games here and there. I certainly don't see them as a Super Bowl dynasty. I don't even necessarily see them as a Super Bowl team. I really want to see this team against a good quality team in the playoffs, round one. And I think that, Jalen, is going to answer the question for me, certainly more than almost anything else. The division sucks. Dallas is a good team that shits its pants in December. Sorry for you two for cussing there. They make their mistakes. And Dak has been off, and Dallas is a good team. It's not a great team, and they have a tendency to screw things up. They can't have nice things, not for very long. And the Giants are a bad organization. They just are. The game in a couple of days is going to be tough. They've got a nice defense, some other things. Division games are always hard. WFT, just the cultural rock in the organization, the leadership. It's just they've got some decent players, but the only team that's a good team in the division is Dallas. Dallas and Philly's coming right up there. Philly's becoming a good team. They're 7-7. I don't want to say they're great. I'm a big Bill Parcells fan. They're an average team right now. But everyone else in the division is well below average. So that's the comparison. I guess, Steve, I want to ask you, I like the roster. I don't want to make too many changes. I want to see if we can make incremental small changes on the margins using a lot of analytics and throwing the ball more to Greg Ward and getting receivers open and getting more points and winning by more points. Not that matters. It really doesn't. But this team could be great. I'd say it's good to, I don't want to say very good because 7-7 isn't very good, but I'm nervous for so many reasons. I think it's a good team. It's year one, and I don't want to just throw everyone overboard. I don't want to cut the whole ship. I don't think that makes sense. Forgetting about emotions or team cohesion or any of that. What's your thought on that, Steve?
Yeah, there's a lot. I'm gonna get into it. Let me, Jalen, appreciate the $10 super chat, buddy. I appreciate you so much, man. Do y'all feel like our current and this is what you're getting into, record is a bit of a fool's gold, and this team isn't as good from a talent point of view? Because we are close to making the playoffs, make a lot of short-term moves versus long-term moves. Listen, Jalen, I'm here to tell you, I got my miner's helmet, I got the pickaxe, I got the strainer. I'm out there digging for that fool's gold. No, I'm joking, man. I think it's a little bit of both, man. I think we're better than what people thought around the league. I think this running game is really, really good. I think that it's paid dividends to invest on the offensive line. We see that paying off. I think we have a young quarterback that's a little up and down, but he's had moments that really make you feel like, hey, man, they might have found something here. I don't know. Look, he's been up and down. There's no doubt about it. But I think he's got an opportunity. I definitely think he has an opportunity to be something. With that said, defensively, we might be a little bit in fool's gold just we have not played a lot of dynamic offenses recently. We really haven't. So I don't know if we're seeing a little bit of fool's gold from a defensive standpoint. In my opinion, I would say that this team has the potential to upset somebody. This team has the potential to get red hot, and if teams can't shut down the running game, something could happen that's pretty special this season. I'm not banking on it. I'm not betting on it. I'm not doing any of those things. Does that kind of answer what you were asking, Allie?
Yeah, pretty much. It sounds like we have very similar opinions. The team, especially the running game and offense, is really good. Can definitely. It's all about getting hot. It's not about being consistently great all season. When you look at the Bill Belichick teams, his September has been historically pretty bad. But then, by the time the end of the season comes around, the team is great. I mean, great. And so it's really about getting hot. The Eagles are definitely getting hot. On offense, there's enough talent to get by, especially with a run game, to really surprise people, to really put people in compromising and compromise situations. The worry I do have talent-wise, to Jalen's point, the defense is super limited. I mean, super limited. The defensive line is good. I don't call them good. They have the potential to be great, but they're not playing great. Linebackers are doing okay. They're doing their jobs. And then, we're really limited on the second and third level, talent-wise. And certainly my hope is to massively improve those in the draft and in free agency, certainly in the draft. And, maybe it's a different conversation next season when we actually have a better defense, when we still have a really good running game, and we have an extra receiver and a quarterback that's more confident throwing the football. And, I mean, the team could be a lot better. The major change that needs to happen in terms of talent really is on the defense. And I'm hoping, I don't think it will happen, but I'm hoping that Howie will spend those first 3 draft picks on the defense. And we'll talk about that one of these weeks.
I'll ask you this question. This is Richie says, "Yo, Steve, he's not a free agent, but is Khalil Mack worth a first-round pick and absorbing the remaining salary of his contract?" To begin with, man, we got to find ways of incorporating that contract. I think that's part of the issue here. From a talent perspective, how are they going to incorporate and use them? That'd be my concern. But if you want a pass rushing edge, a stand-up type that can play his hands in the dirt, he can play as a stand-up choker, he can play in a 34, everything, sure. I don't know if I trade a first for him at this point, though. I mean, do you still think that that's a guy you trade away a first-round pick for?
So I'm a big believer that it's about how the entire unit works collaboratively together rather than, you just go one person, he's a stud, he's a dog, and he'll just fix all your problems. Obviously, with the quarterback position on offense, it's a little bit different because the quarterback has the ball in his hands all the time and directs, makes adjustments to play calls. And the quarterback is the exception of the rule. But I think in general, and Lawrence Taylor, maybe, just to give you an example, Lawrence Taylor changed the game. Like, he was great. I'm not saying that Khalil Mack is Lawrence Taylor. I don't think he is. But he might be. So, all right, let's get down to it. So our defensive line is getting decent pressure, but not enough sacks and not enough tackles for loss. Not enough things that manipulate the change in our favor. And the linebackers are okay to good, and the defensive backs are okay to good. Certainly, if you listen to PFF, if you really want to stop a passing game, you need a great pass rusher. And Khalil Mack is certainly that. So that could be helpful. I just don't know whether or not he's worth the first-round pick. I don't really know. We can talk about that later. But I don't know that just him by himself, without improving the linebackers, without improving the defensive backs, I don't think that he would make the defense markedly better. I'd want to see it. I need to see it before I believe
it. Yeah. I mean, hard to say. Here's another great question here. Skylar coming in and said, "We need to draft all 3 levels on defense. The draft is loaded on defense, so if drafted right, we could be dangerous." I think that we need playmakers on defense, and I think we need defensive linemen. Fletch is – I don't know how much longer Fletch has got left here. And it's not that I think Fletch is a bad player. I still think Fletch is an impact player when he wants to be and when he has the opportunity to be. I think offenses will cue in on him. They'll definitely do some things to try to focus in on taking him out of reps and out of games. But I just, I don't know that we have the answers at edge rusher for the system right now. I think Josh Sweat, I think there are moments where I feel like he's going to get there. Derek Barnett may or may not be back. I'm leaning towards it's probably not back. Brandon Graham is 34 years old when he comes back next year, I believe. I think he'll be playing at 34 years old. I really like what I've seen out of Teron Jackson. I think he's been really, really good. But I don't know. I think Teron Jackson is more of a role player. I think we need an edge rusher. I'm going to be honest with you. I think you can get by a defensive tackle, but I would take a defensive tackle, especially if you can find a guy in the second round that's been undervalued. He can give you something. I think I go defensive line. I definitely need someone on my defensive line. If you can get an impact player at linebacker, I think you do it. I know that we don't have the draft history, and it's really, really tough to project that we're going to do anything even remotely like that at linebacker. But I think we need it. And then safety, not a deep draft class for safety. If you can get a guy, get him, in my opinion. But I don't know this is a deep enough draft class for that. Corner, I think, is a little bit more steady. I think there's a little bit more flexibility to get you a decent corner. So to me, I think you just look at those position groups and you take the best guy that you can get for versatility. But I really wouldn't rule back us trading back and getting an extra 2023 pick. I can see this organization. I can see them doing that.
Yeah, I see that happening as well. And I agree with you about the quality of the draft class. Defense, edge, IDL, plenty of those, plenty of linebackers, plenty of corners. Really the only thing there's not very much of, like you said, or like we said, is safety. So let me ask you this. Kind of an advanced conversation for today. Do you believe in trading down? Do you believe in trading up? Do you believe in taking the best player available where you are as a general rule? Like, what's your draft philosophy? More often than not.
Complicated depending on the nature of the team. With the Philadelphia Eagles, I think the best approach here is to try to shore up your roster as much as you possibly can, and then look for the most impactful player you can find. I would lean defensively in this draft class, but I think my backup would be if there's the right wide receiver, I might take him. Even though it would be three first-round picks or even a second-round pick. Michael Pittman was a second-round pick.
Right.
It would be very high. We'd be spending a lot of draft capital, and I don't anticipate them doing it. I personally would if the right guy's there. But I'm going defense first. Defense is my priority. If I can't get that right guy, then I might lean into the offensive line. I just don't think you can have enough offensive linemen, personally.
Agreed.
So yeah. I might try to find me a guard or a center and just keep adding pieces if I can, especially if I can find a guy that I feel like might be able to play right guard, or definitely if I can find a guy that I think matches the value at center. I'd probably go there. Because then I can have, I can have Driscoll at right guard. I can have Kelsey until he retires at center. I got Dickerson at left guard. And then I got Isaac Seumalo, who can compete for center or left guard or be the number one backup in the interior. And then I also had this kid I drafted at center that, you know what I mean? Like, I just think that there's ways of approaching it. That's probably what I would do. I would definitely, I'm going defense first, best player available, defense, and an impact player. I can't find that guy, which I find hard to believe. I feel like we're going to find somebody. Then I would probably look at interior offensive line, or I would look at maybe an X-line boundary side receiver if there's one to be had there. Or if I can't get an X-line boundary receiver, a guy that can win and gain separation, a guy that can beat man cover.
Right.
I mean, that's how I would approach it, judging the Eagle circumstance.
Sure, that makes sense.
And honestly, like I said, I think it would be really hard not to draft defense in the first round this year.
The defense is the much bigger liability. If you're going to shore up your roster, like you said, I would start finishing it on defense. I really would. I mean, I agree. Boundary side X receiver, offensive linemen, especially interior offensive linemen that are versatile. I think that's definitely the way to do it.
You have a question here from Jalen. Be careful. Jalen's a former collegiate defensive lineman. And he played offensive line he played defensive line in high school and played offensive line in college. So it's a loaded question, Allie.
All right.
It's a loaded question, Allie. Don't let him fool you. Allie, since you have a background in offensive line and defensive line. I only played
in high school, so I'm not nearly as good as you, Jalen, but I did play offensive and defensive line.
He said, what is your assessment of Jordan Mailata and Milton Williams?
Mailata needs to be careful about the fundamentals. He needs to be careful about hand placement, weight distribution. The dude's an animal, and he's a great guy. And I want him on the roster for a really long time. And Stoutland is probably the best O-line coach in the freaking league, which is great. But he makes mental mistakes. He's a rugby guy, right? So there's some attention to detail. some penalties, mostly post-snap, which is better than pre-snap because pre-snap is all mental stuff. I like Mailata a lot. He's physical. He's athletic. He's great. He really is the whole package. The only limitation I see with Mailata is attention to detail and fundamentals and post-snap penalties. That's what I'm seeing when I see Mailata for sure. And then Milton Williams, I just want to be clear, 3-tech, 5-tech, Louisiana Tech.
Louisiana Tech, yeah. He started off his career as a 5-tech, and then because of the nature of the 2020 season, I don't want to say certain things because they'll come after us. YouTube's real funny about that.
Right.
We all know what happened, and it caused a reduction in scholarship players because some players decided to take the year off, and they asked Milton Williams as a result of that to bounce inside as a 3-tech. And he showed ability as a really good pass rusher, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I think, Steve, you and I have a slightly different opinion. I think you have no respect for Milton Williams' physical presence. Obviously, he's not a nose. We agree on that. He's definitely not a nose. But a defensive tackle, quote-unquote 3-tech, obviously, you can shift that around. It's not just a 3-tech. That's the best example, like a Warren Sapp cut type of 3-tech. I think he can hold up against the run as a 3-tech. Like I said, he's not a nose. He's a quote-unquote defensive tackle. He can play the 5. Cox should play the 5. Here's a quick thing about Cox. I think he's bored off his butt. He has elite talent, but he's bored. He's old. He's great. When you're old and great, you get bored. Mm-hmm. Put me on more stunts, coach. Put me in a 5, which they did, by the way, against Washington. Put him in against the 5. They had him in a stunt. He got great technique on both. So Cox is bored. That's his issue. Hopefully the coaches will fix that. He's still a very good player. As far as Williams goes, I think he's a great pass rusher for sure. I even think he's pretty good against the run, assuming you don't put him at nose. And I'd like to see him at 5-tech more as well. More as a role player. I like him at the 3 as a situational guy. But
I saw him more in the BG role, personally. I thought he could be more of a bigger BG, a guy that on running plays when you want to really set the tempo and you want to really get physical, he can be a really good edge setter as a 5 technique against the run because he's going to be able. He has real Here's the crazy thing about Milton Williams is this. Jalen, correct me if I'm wrong if you see something different. What I see on film from from Milton Williams is he's really good at initiating his hips into the actual into his man. So he gains proper leverage with his hips. He's not strong enough to anchor against certain linemen. Certain linemen eat him up. But he's high energy. He's all effort. He gives you effort on every single snap he's in there. But maybe doesn't quite have the strength and the power to anchor on the interior against bigger, stronger linemen. But physically is gifted in ways that other guys are not and can beat you off the ball if you're just not talented. If you were a below average athlete, he could be a problem even in the running game on you. Because he's going to beat you off the ball. That makes sense?
So
Allie, what are your thoughts?
I haven't studied a ton of this film. I have seen him on film, which is why I'm answering with this level of confidence. I have seen him anchor. Now, obviously, we can take a look at a ton of film and maybe his ability to anchor is sporadic and only against certain players and only in limited circumstances. I've seen him do it. I know he has the capability. Again, a lot of it probably depends on the situation. You probably don't want him in that situation all the time. I mean, that's why you have Cox and Hargrave. You don't want Williams or Ridgeway or whatever. You don't want them on the field all the time anyway. Back in the Super Bowl years or the Super Bowl year, a lot of it was heavy rotational alignment, right? At the end of the day, everybody's tired. Everybody wants to go home, and obviously you want to play, you want to win, but your body is exhausted. You've got these fresh guys off the bench, and they're just beating you because it's not even a mental thing. You're just physically cannot compete at that level anymore in the game, and that's why you need defensive line depth. And I think that Williams is a greater. I think Williams and Ridgeway are very, very nice rotational pieces.
Yeah. So Jalen said, Allie, we have very similar opinions on Jordan Mailata, and we differ on Milton he needs to be a penetrator on games from the 5, and in the 3, he has to have one-on-one matchups to have success.
So,
I see similar, Jalen, that he needs a one-on-one matchup to where he's the more athletically gifted player, and on zone blocks or where he's basically where you're doubling the interior defensive lineman, he's susceptible. He can get pushed out of his gap assignment. He's not a two-gapper.
To be fair and to be clear, and I love the follow-up with that because that's super important.
Yeah.
What I saw on film, it was a one-on-one. And it may have just been one. It
Yeah.
not have been a ton. But yeah, traditionally, IDLs get double teamed all the time, and you don't want to put them in that situation too often. That's not
two gapping,
but you want to limit that situation for sure.
Yeah, he's not a two gapper. He's definitely, in my opinion, that's a guy that you need to have in a one gap scheme. And I think putting him in a two gap scheme, I'm not saying he could never do it. And that's the thing. Like what a guy is now is not necessarily what a guy will be in 2 years. And that's right. The difficulty, right? Is that right now he seems to struggle to anchor. And I don't think it's because of technique, unless Jalen sees something different from a technique perspective. I thought that from what I saw with the young man, he does engage his hips well into the actual going into his man, and he's there where you're supposed to be in terms of the leverage. But he just, on those double teams, he just doesn't have the strength, and he gets washed out of the gap. One-on-one, he's a nightmare against certain people. I can see that they struggle with him, and I'm really shocked that we haven't utilized him more in one-on-one matchups to generate pressure with. Jalen, you said this earlier, and I'm going to repeat it. I'm going to act like I said it, though, okay? So he should be used more on stunts and twists. There should be movement used with Milton Williams. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with that. What are your thoughts on that, Allie, about using him in motion sets from the defensive line?
I think everyone should put in stunts and twists in games. I don't think we do enough of that for various reasons. I mean, obviously you don't do it all the time, but situationally, 3rd and 6 or more, stuff like that. We have a nice line, but it's not elite. It's not great. Part of the reason it's not elite or great, statistically at least, is the lack of games, the lack of twists, the lack of stunts, the lack of creativity on defense, the lack of aggressiveness and disguise on defense, which is a JG.
So just real quick, I want to, a few long-term, members of the Gate City Media Company here that have, y'all been rocking for us for a long time. That chimed in with the Merry Christmas. If y'all are still around, Kara, long time no see. Merry Christmas. How are you? Hope everything's going well. Jonathan Holly, appreciate you, buddy. Merry Christmas. And everybody that wished me a Merry Christmas and I missed your comment, thank you guys. Merry Christmas. We really do appreciate y'all tuning in. We got about 7 more minutes or so, guys, that we're going to rock out, okay? So if you got any last-minute questions, now would be the time. While you guys are asking those last-minute questions, I'll say this. We are going to get a little bit more into the free agents about kind of like what we see in terms of who's available and how we grade them and position needs for the Eagles, because we didn't really get into the exact nature of what we think this team needs in free agency and how we would approach it. So that's going to be next Saturday's topic. Allie will be doing some more videos with me, so we may cover something midweek where we talk about maybe we'll talk about the quarterback situation. Maybe we'll talk about growth from Jalen Hurts and like what the next steps are for this young man to really capitalize upon the momentum he got from this Washington game. We can talk about different avenues, guys. I mean, you really want to know the draft. The draft, there were almost 200 votes, guys, and it was like 39% of you guys wanted this conversation, wanted this topic. 32% of you guys wanted the conversation about the draft. We decided to, day one, we'll kind of mix in a teeny tiny bit of both and just give you an overbrush of the cap situation and the financials behind it all. And then we'll talk about who the players are and all that. Next week, like I said, we're gonna do a deep dive, y'all. We're gonna get real deep into who's available, what the position grades are, how much it would cost theoretically, because no one knows for sure, but what the assumptions are for the cost value. We'll get into all that. So Richie said percentage that Alex Singleton is the Eagle starter in 2022. What do you think, Richie? I'm sorry. What do you think, Allie?
So it depends on how you define the word starter. It depends on the position that we're talking about. So, like you said, he is basically a Will that can play some Mike. He could play some Sam maybe, but not really. Not really a great fit for that. So basically, you're thinking about him as being a starting top 2 ILB. That's what I'm interpreting by what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing. I mean, certainly my preference is Davion Taylor and TJ Edwards, unless, there's someone great in the draft that just blows them out of the water, which is possible, although Howie probably won't draft that guy because that's not really Howie's thing. They don't value that position very highly in the draft.
Yeah.
I would say, so percentage, I mean, I'm going to say 20%. That just feels right to me. I'm not sure. I would like, for me, he's linebacker 3 in terms of your ILBs. I want Edwards and Taylor back at least for another season and see what's there. Obviously, there's the draft, there's free agency. I'm gonna answer that question at 20%. What's your thought?
I'm going to say 30 to 40% just because of injury. I think he's your third or your fourth guy. I think they're probably going to draft somebody fairly early. I don't know what early means. I don't know if that's first round guys. I think we don't have the track record for that, so I don't know. But I think somewhere by the third round, I do expect a linebacker's name to be called, and I do get concerned. Sorry, guys, this is my phone acting up here. I do get concerned that this is not you do have some limitations in a linebackers past the first 3 or 4 options. It gets a little iffy, so we'll have to see. Another question rolls in, and Mariana. To be quite honest, I don't know. It could be Rocker, depending on how things lay out between the coaches. It could be Rocker. That could be a Gannon thing. I have no clue. But yes, he's at least partially responsible because normally all your coaches come together. So I just, I don't know. I don't know the exact percentage of blame for that. I don't know as much defensively, I should say, in turn, because they just kind of keep that stuff secret. Does Dillard get traded? What do you think?
Dillard is limited, but he's not bad. That's I think that's the question behind the question. In the Tampa game, he got massively exposed. I mean, it was bad. Tampa screwed him up. He was late off the ball. He was late into his kick set. It just was not good at all. I mean, so speaking broadly, quarterback, offensive line, defensive line are high leverage, high value positions for anybody, and for good reason. In the modern NFL, it's all about throwing the ball, unless you're the Eagles or one or two other teams. And so, I mean, I'd say probably. So I guess the question is, do the Eagles want to keep him as the backup for left tackle? He's not the worst backup in the world, but he's by no means a starter in my view. I see him as a backup. And if he's going to be a backup, he should be a swing tackle, and he's not. I would be completely fine trading him. In fact, I think I'd like to. The real question is, who would take him and for what?
Yeah. It's a possibility he gets traded because the league is they're tackle needy, to make it short. This is a good one. I'll just give a real quick answer to this one. I think it's really close. I'm going to say Jordan Mailata just because I think Mailata has the higher ceiling. And also, Mekhi Becton, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was a first-round pick. Mailata was a seventh-round pick. I'm going to just say that Mailata's impressed me more, but Becton is very good, very dominant, very physical. They're both dancing teddy bears. I like both players a lot. I like both players a lot. But I would probably go with Mailata, but it might be because of bias being an Eagles fan and having more exposure to Mailata than Becton.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Probably for a lot of the same reasons.
So, Mr. Wing, appreciate you commenting, buddy. He said, do you guys think once Howie stops leaks from the quarterback trade talk stuff and Hurts knows that the Eagles are basically confident in him, do you think he'll perform better? Possibly, Mr. Wing. I think it's possible.
Mr. Wing, I love your film study. Thank you for doing that. We're big on film study here. We're going to get more into that, in the future weeks, future days. And you're absolutely right. When you watch his film, there are people open, but for whatever reason, the coaches, the owners, the GMs, the whatever, he's not throwing the ball. And it's entirely possible that I don't think it'll happen, and B, he's a tough kid and he's a strong kid. I would love to get Jalen Hurts' head and figure out what his deal is. That would be huge for me because he definitely has an issue. He's not pulling the trigger, and I hope that Howie would help. I don't think he's going to help him at all. I don't think Howie is in Hurts' corner. I think the owner and the coaches very much are. I don't. Okay. So, I guess briefly, Hurts is enough of a leader and a strong enough guy to not let that get to him. He's not Carson Wentz. Not to talk about his name again, right? Carson Wentz, a little plastic, a little fragile mentally in some cases, but I don't think Howie is going to try to help Jalen Hurts. But I don't think that him not doing that really phases or hurts Jalen Hurts. I don't know what Jalen Hurts' issue is. He's got an issue for sure on the film, and I really want to take a look at that maybe this coming week. But great question.
This one's directly to you. There's one more question I'll get after this one, guys, and then we're gonna kill it, guys. Because we've been here an hour and a half. It's Christmas Eve. Thank you all so much. We appreciate y'all so much.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Who do you like? This is directly to you.
Yeah, I want to do at some point. We're probably going to throw in more draft stuff during the week just because it's so popular and maybe some film studying, whatever. Right now, based on what I've seen, mostly on TV, I'd go Hutch. I would go Hutch. But I want us to table that for a little later. I want to do some film study and talk some analytics. But based on what I know, based on what I've seen on TV, I would go Hutch.
Yeah, Hutch seems to be the more consistent guy to me. Thibodeau, I don't know how you say his name, but he seems to have the explosiveness element to him, and I think he could be a guy that, in the right system, with the right coaching, with the right development, could have a really high ceiling. All right, last question of the night, guys. Thank you all so much, man. We really appreciate y'all, for real. It's Christmas Eve, and at one point, we almost had 50 people in here on Christmas Eve. It's really, really appreciated. Big Birds, what do you think about cornerback Ahmad Gardner in the draft? Love him.
Me too. I want to confirm real quick. That's Sauce from Cincinnati?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So here's I only have one concern about Sauce. He is one of the best press corners I've ever seen, and I love that. Hopefully JG will love that too, and Howie, and hopefully people will love that. I love that about him. Like, that's his one elite trait that I've seen. I just don't know if he's elite at other stuff too. And the Clemson kids, some of these other kids might be more well-rounded. But I love Sauce. I want to take a look at his film. I want to get really in deep and in depth. I like him a lot. I just want to make sure that he's got the full tool set. What are your thoughts? You probably know more. You're more of a draft guy, I think, than I am. What are your thoughts on Sauce?
My Garner, I love the way he plays the position. I definitely think that you're always a little skeptical because the conference he's coming out of, but I love the way he plays the game, and he's a kid I would personally take a gamble on. I do think that he's a little bit better in man than zone. I do think that he's got some eye discipline issues in zone. He's got to clean up at the next level, but I like him. I like the film. I'm going to get to two more questions, guys, and then we got to jump off, guys. We do. But first one, I was asked earlier tonight. I don't remember who asked me. I'm so sorry, guys, but I remember the question you asked me about Tyler Shaw, the quarterback that is at Texas Tech, I believe. Ideal size profile guy, 6'5", 220-ish. He's the ideal build guy. I don't know enough of his film yet to tell you anything definitive. So I'll have to take a look at the film. I'll add him to the quarterbacks that we break down for the draft class stuff. And then, Dalen, I'll answer yours real quick before we jump off of here. Just one more laugh out loud. What type of center would you like to replace Kelsey with? Agile and quick? I don't know where I was going with that one, Allie. Like Kelsey, or more physical who can handle one-on-one blocks?
So I don't want to take this the wrong way. I don't think that Kelsey's issues they can't handle one-on-one blocks. I think his plus, him being a plus player, is how athletic he is. I mean, he's running pace for pace with defensive backs. I'm biased. I like what I see. I like Kelsey. My preference, kind of intuitively, is I'd like to find someone with a similar skill set. I think having a center that's that athletic, especially with our run game, can be really good. We've already got two guys that are massive. We've got two guys that are very athletic, and we've got someone playing right guard. So I like having a nice mix of the two. Especially if you're going to be running the ball as much as I think we are, 40, 50 times a game, you have to be diverse in your run game. And if you really want to be diverse in your run game, you want to have a couple guys that are athletic. You want to have a couple guys that are, walking teddy bears, I think, right? You want to have a nice line. And for me, if I had to choose right now, obviously we'll talk about the guys later, but I would prefer to go after someone that has that athleticism to help us attack the edges and get second, third level runs more consistently.
Jalen, honestly, I'd like to see Isaac Seumalo get a chance at center. It's what his natural position was in college. I think he's a nice combination of what you're looking for there. He's not a true full guard, but he's got the ability to do it. He's done it as a guard his career. He's good enough to do it. He's not a small dude that can just easily be pushed around, although I think early on and the left side of the line, he got pushed a little bit. I think he's gotten better with his technique and anchoring as a lineman. So I definitely think that Seumalo deserves a chance, but if I'm looking high end at the draft, I'm going to take a wild guess that most of the guys that are more physical and can handle one-on-one blocks are far more likely to go in the first round, especially the top end of the first round, while your more pull and movement type guys, probably more the back end of the first into the second, even later. Like, Kelsey was a fifth round guy because you're probably looking at a guy who's going to be a little undersized, more than likely, unless you find just a phenomenal guy. You know what I mean? Like, I like Landon Dickerson at left guard, though. I like Driscoll at right guard. So, yeah, I mean, that's how I would look at it. But, guys, we appreciate y'all so much. 1 hour, 36 minutes, Christmas Eve. Thank y'all so much, everybody. On your way out, if I can ask you to do one big favor, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, we'd love to earn your subscription. We're not asking you to subscribe just blindly. We'd like to earn it from you. So, with that said, Allie, thank you so much.
My pleasure. It's been fun. Happy Christmas Eve.
It was the night before Christmas. And all through the house. All right, y'all. We appreciate y'all so much. And we'll see you guys this upcoming week. But make sure you guys are here for next Saturday because we're going to continue the discussion and we're going to get into players the Eagles might target. All right, y'all. Peace. I'm out of here. Happy holidays, everybody.